Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Grain Feed, brought to you by EverAg. This is your weekly news feed for all things grain and all things feed. Each week, we bring you updates on the markets with unique perspectives from an amazing team of analysts with the intention of helping dairy and livestock producers measure risk. I'm your host, Jim Matthews, reporting from Chicago on what is about to be Independence Day weekend. Very exciting. Joining me today from Wichita, Kansas, Director of Feed Foundations, Mr. Jake Kingsley, and from Allendale, Michigan, Dairy Market Advisor, Mr. Cody Koster. Team, how are we today?
Doing very well.
Doing well, Jim. Thank you.
Excellent, Cody. Great to have you here. How are things in Allendale?
Going very well. I appreciate you having me back. It's been a while, but I am glad to be back with my friends.
Yeah, it has been a while. I'm glad you used the word friends because that's how Jake and I feel. We feel that way about you. I don't think we're ever invited to Tech Talk. For the viewers and listeners out there, Cody is the co-host of Tech Talk, which is it still our most listened to?
By a mile, I think.
Oh, they just edged out this show. I said by a little bit. So Cody's the co-host. If you're not familiar with it, that's okay. A lot of folks aren't, but you should tune in. It's a great one. And every once in a while, and by that I just mean the once, Jake and I were invited onto Tech Talk to do a Tech Talk grain feed. What did we call it? A Votorama?
Yeah, a nice collaboration. We'll do it again really soon, right after the 4th.
We wanted to do it again.
We're going to do it again.
We're going to do it again after the 4th.
Correct.
Right after the Votorama.
Don't blow your fingers off.
Yep. That's a 4th of July reference.
Yes, it is. Wow.
There you go. Jake, how are things in Wichita, Kansas?
They're pretty good. Mild weather. Caught a rain early this week. Probably catch another one this weekend. Corn crop's looking good. I think the wheat crop's still a little slow coming out, but yield is all right, close to average. Quality isn't a major concern yet. So all in all, good things. I'm hearing good things out of Oklahoma and Texas as well. Very similar to, maybe better than conditions here in Kansas even. So Southern Plains doing all right if you're someone looking to buy feed.
Okay, excellent. And we'll touch on this in a little bit because the wheat market was up a decent chunk today as we record on Wednesday, but so was a handful of things here at the board. So we'll get back into what's happening in Jake's neck of the woods and that wheat market here shortly. But first, Paige, if you would kindly timestamp the broadcast, it is Wednesday afternoon on what will be a shortened week here at the board because Friday, July 4th, markets are closed for Independence Day. As we settled today, we were green on the screen here in Chicago, at least for those grain and feed markets. We had December corn managed to bounce back. It was up 11.5 cents at the close at 433.5. That was after testing into the $4 and teens, if you will. 417.5 was the low. So a very nice recovery in the corn market. We had December wheat up 14 3/4 at 584. We had Novi beans up 20 3/4 cents at 1048. So trying to inch back to 1050 after being under 1025 by a tick. So a nice recovery for beans. Soybean meal, that stubborn little byproduct, was up 320 with December back above 290 just by 80 cents. But we're watching that threshold closely for that stubborn little byproduct. And then December bean oil up 139 at 55.07. So bean oil continuing to show some of that strength that it has seen over the past couple of weeks now. Jake will probably talk maybe even a little bit about that as well. But first, let's turn her back to Cody because Cody, we're recording on Wednesday. I believe we had a global dairy trade yesterday on Tuesday. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that one?
We did. Yep. We had our GDT Tuesday yesterday. Myself and Mr. John Spainhour did the podcast yesterday afternoon after it wrapped up. And he made a good mention that he's been talking for a few weeks as we kind of get into the summer months that usually the buying picks up on the GDT, meaning more participants kind of flock to the global dairy trade. And we saw that yesterday. I think participation was up somewhere in the 40%, 2 weeks over 2 weeks from the previous GDT. It was down. Almost all the products were down, but the caveat right now, focusing on cheese, their cheddar cheese price, $2.20 equivalent to ours, Mozzarella is still at $2.18. And if you look at our block price, we went from $1.60 late last week up to $1.72 yesterday. And right now we're sitting at $1.67. So you want to talk about a good 45 cent discrepancy to the rest of the world. We are still sitting there. Even though GDT was a little bit lower, I still think there is some room for exports. As we saw the block drop to $1.60 early last week, we heard a majority of the country had export orders that were in fact getting shipped out of the country. And I would look, honestly, for the same thing to happen once we get back from the 4th of July holiday.
So as we come out of the holiday weekend, perhaps expect a little bit more export demand there. And Cody, what does that ultimately do then to milk pricing here for our dairy farmers?
Yeah, great question, Jim. Generally, the more exports we can get flocked out of the country, it's going to be more of a bullish sentiment for dairy prices as we kind of dwindle away at some of the stocks that we are holding on a lot of these products. We need to make more milk, which the USDA has shown that we have done with USDA milk production report, but it usually bodes itself to higher prices. We cannot stay 45 cents lesser than Europe forever, because even with shipping, people are going to come to this country and say, hey, I can buy your product, I can put it on a boat, I can get it shipped, and I'm still going to be farther ahead than going to a neighbor next door, generically.
Okay, so that's going to be super interesting tracking the demand side of this, because it does feel like them pricing has been able to entice enough folks to at least step in. You talked about making more milk, but what we didn't talk about as we started the show, Cody, was that it has been pretty stinking hot in the Midwest, right? We know Kansas is its own beast down there where Jake is, but the Midwest has been exceptionally toasty over the past couple weeks. Let's say we had a very nice spring. We had no real complaints. For the corn crop, if you got some good soil moisture going into this thing, if you're corn, you don't mind having 90-degree heat with some good humidity and rains on and off every few days. Might even be fantastic for yields, and we'll get back to that here in a second. But if you are a cow who grew up in Michigan and is trying to produce milk there and supposed to be feeling hungry and healthy, might not be the case if you're dealing with this type of weather for a multi-week period. So what's happening with our animals here up north?
Yeah, the past 2 weeks have been very hot, very dry here in the Midwest. Generically this time of year, not even, I mean, it's the 2nd of July right now. By the time we get to the 20th and the beginning of August, I think people are talking about milk production slipping from the heat. I have not heard the numbers that I've been told so far. They started out 2 weeks ago. Guys were down 10 pounds, 15 pounds. I talked to producers today who are down 22 to 25 pounds average per cow. And the scary thing about that is I'm looking at the weather right now for the coming weeks. We have 89 tomorrow. We go into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, averaging 94 degrees in the Midwest, not a drop of rain in sight. The problem is at night, the temperatures are not dropping below 82 degrees. Fans are running 24/7. I would say generically, most people in the Midwest are not set up for this kind of heat, for this kind of stretch. We don't have a lot of soakers, a lot of misters, just kind of fans and shade. So the milk production is getting hit on pretty hard in the Midwest. I talked to folks out in the West Coast, California, Washington, Idaho-ish area, and they have had a very mild summer. We are having heat way above them right now. They are set up better for the heat as the cows go. So they're not doing too bad. I would expect milk production to grow a little bit out in that region. But in the Midwest here, it's going to be a tough go for the next couple days if these temperatures stay true and we are just below triple digits. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, it might be nice to hit the beach or watch some fireworks, but yeah, we do have to keep an eye on this stretch here for the animals, because like you said, Cody, this is going to start to, well, there's an element of they just start to get lethargic. They're not eating as much. They don't have enough energy, not producing as much milk. So is it an immediate story impacting our markets as we trade at the moment? Perhaps not just yet, but I do think it's something that we need to be paying attention to, because if this is sustainable in terms of this current forecast, it's unsustainable for our milk production, at least in certain parts of the Midwest. So I think it's very important to keep an eye on. Cody, anything else impacting these animals and or our markets that you'd like to hit?
One thing that you did bring up, Jim, is it might not affect our markets right now, but the longevity of them is reproduction. Right now, cattle, I'm told, are having a hard time getting pregnant when it's going to be anywhere between 85 and 95 degrees throughout the night and the day. Can cows catch back up? Can breeding catch back up? Yes. Are we going to have a little bit of a slug and it's, again, only the 2nd of July? Absolutely. I think there's been more calls the past 2 days where guys have said, hey, the feed intake is not good. The water intake is getting a little bit better, but the reproduction is not there. So we need to be careful on how hot this summer is going to become, on what that's going to look like for calving farther down the road for these girls.
Okay, good deal, Cody. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. We really appreciate your insights coming from the Midwest, so thank you. And then Jake, speaking of this weather in the Midwest, because if we just ended right there, it sounds like things are pretty rough, right? I mean, it's given our animals a tough time in different parts of our milk shed. But I think, as I alluded to when talking to Cody about that, was that largely for our crops, things are still looking pretty okay. We had our crop conditions report come out Monday afternoon. At least July is that more impactful month for the American corn crop. I believe as we start to tassel now, I think in a pretty decent chunk of the Midwest, and then ultimately hitting that key pollination stage for probably almost nearly all the Midwest, let's say in mid-ish, latest July. So we're going to be really watching that weather. We know Managed Money's watching it. Managed Money was also watching Monday's report, which was our acreage report and stocks as of June 1st report. Jake, what was your interpretation of those numbers released on Monday?
Both acreage and stocks came in pretty well in line with expectations. Market response was very muted. Not a whole lot of change at all in acreage from the March 31 prospective planting report either. So fundamentally, we haven't seen a whole lot of new news this week, just kind of a reaffirming of things that were already expected and priced into the market. I think political headlines are probably making the most waves at this point, or are the concern to make more waves as we move through the month of July anyway. We saw it today, Wednesday going into Thursday for a 3-day weekend for the 4th. Pretty healthy rally across a lot of commodities that had been trending red for feed buyers for the week. Pretty healthy rally here on Wednesday. I expect we may see a little more follow through on Thursday going into the long weekend, as we've been talking some short covering Managed Money, the funds trying to trim up their positions a bit before we go into a 3-day stretch where they can't maneuver in the markets. With a budget bill working its way through Congress right now, we've of course got the weather to deal with across the Midwest as this crop continues to develop. By all looks of it so far, crop conditions in most of the core producing states are very good. Even a good number of the fringe states are off to a pretty good start with corn production and bean production for that matter. But we do still have the whole month of July and all of August to get through before we confirm this thing. And then you also have to consider that we've got the tariff deadline for July 9th, where that pause that the Trump administration had put into place 90 days ago comes to deadline. We've, of course, got things going on in the Middle East and the Black Sea that could cause some concern. So a lot of short covering here, just trying to prepare for the unknowns going into an extended closed market period. All in all, prices for feed buyers are still pretty attractive. A lot of opportunity, if not to buy physical feed, to manage your risk on the exchange. And I think we've seen a lot of folks do that. This is maybe the 4th or 5th opportunity to do so over the last few months. Of course, the last 2 weeks here now, we've pushed into some new lows on both corn and soybean meal new crop futures. So maybe adding another layer or cleaning up some loose ends if they hadn't done that already. Yeah, good opportunity here. I expect as we get through the weekend and into the first full trading week of July, if the fundamentals hold and we get even moderately good forecasts, we probably start to reset that trend a little bit lower price-wise.
Jake, all all very good points here. And there is a lot going on. And I know that as we look at the market, especially at the beginning of this week, not only did we have that report that confirmed, 95.2 million acres of corn, which is a lot of corn to be planted in this country, but we also got that conditions report saying that 73% of the nation's crop was in a good or excellent state at the moment, which was a 3% jump from the week prior and is almost 10 percentage points, I think, ahead of what has been the 5-year average at this time of the year. So I think that was also a kind of a wake up for folks of things like when we've been saying things look and sound pretty good, the reports that are coming out are confirming that with the data, right? Things are largely in a very good position for the corn crop, but we're heading into a 3-day weekend. This was a good opportunity for funds to maybe start to take some money off the table heading into a period where the markets are closed for 3 days. But you also noted all this macro components that could also cause a little bit of de-risking, such as that July 9th deadline for a lot of folks. I think we maybe even saw a potential deal come through earlier today, not confirmed yet on what all those details look like, but we're going to start seeing country to country deals come through, hopefully, in the next week or so. And then, don't forget what happened in the Middle East. That seemed to have, came and went, if you will, but there's always a little bit of risk out there from a geopolitical standpoint on what could happen in the energy markets during any given weekend. So I have to keep an eye on that. It's also summer, so we're using a bit more energy. It is hopefully consuming a bit more grub this weekend for the 4th of July. And I'm going to support our dairy farmers by eating way too many cheeseburgers. Probably that's just me personally, but I'm just here to help. Cody, before we go, I know the viewers want to know, what's your favorite thing to do on the 4th of July?
Oh man. Well,
That you could tell us.
that's okay. Appreciate that. I usually think a good day at the beach is also very nice, but I actually got a text message that I'm going to be hauling hay on Friday. So
Lucky you.
I know, thrown into some work on my day off.
That
Day off.
That is fantastic. That's great to hear.
It's good, Jim. Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. That is a lot of fun. Well, we're happy for you, Jake. You're going to be doing something similar on the 4th?
I won't be working too hard, but we've got extended family getting together for our annual celebration, and I got a hand crank ice cream maker to get the next generation in on the tradition. We're going to make some homemade ice cream, support the industry as well.
There you go.
Jake, look at you. So that sounds like some work, though. That sounds like you're putting in some effort here.
Well, it won't be me. It'll be the young ones. I already did mine.
And just to be clear, your children are very young,
Yeah.
but it's never too early, right? That's what we're saying. I mean, we get them.
Never too early.
Yeah, get them going. You got to keep the tradition alive.
Jim, what is your tradition? What is your favorite thing to do on the 4th?
So we are going to, there's a park here in Chicago called Independence Park, and they have a little parade that they do every morning on the 4th of July. So we'll be heading to Independence Park for the Independence Day parade.
Very cool.
It's still going to be some work, but not the type of work you gentlemen are doing. You guys are the real heroes.
Thank you, Jim.
And with that all being said, we'd like to wish everyone a wonderful Independence Day. And let's remember why we celebrate this great nation and its birthday and independence. We're all very lucky to be citizens of the USA. We'd also like to thank the EverAg Insights crew for their support. Thank you to Paige for production magic. And thank you to the viewers for watching the Grain Feed. Contact information is on the screen. We greatly appreciate your feedback. That's all for today. We'll see you next time on the Grain Feed.